Remove carcinogens and get your gear compliant clean with Unimac laundry equipment. Find it at alliancelaundry.com/fire.
There are two things firefighters dislike: the way things are, and change.
Sometimes traditional ways clash with the need for change.
That's where we come in.
Slicing through the noise with insights that matter.
Welcome to Igniting the Shift Within.
Your launch pad to revolutionize the way you think and work and lead.
Welcome to Igniting the Shift Within. I'm David Dachinger. Are you ready to unlock the secrets to better sleep? In this episode, we're going to be diving deep in the world of firefighter wellness with Dr. Sara Jahnke, and we'll discover some groundbreaking research, practical strategies, and maybe even how your department can support your sleep. So don't miss out on the chance to transform your nightly rest and boost your performance on the front lines. At the end, Sarah is going to share 3 tactical takeaways you can use to enhance your wellness, performance, and leadership. So let's bring on Dr. Jahnke. She is a leading researcher in firefighter health, diversity, and occupational wellness. She directs the Center for Fire Rescue and EMS Health Research and serves as president of science to the station. With a PhD in psychology and training in epidemiology, she specializes in translating research into practical solutions for first responders. I can't emphasize how important that is for us to be able to grok what these numbers actually mean and what all that research means. So appreciate you doing that. And her work has shaped national strategies on firefighter behavioral health, cancer, injury, retention, organizational culture, and it focuses on advancing a resilient and diverse workforce. Sarah, welcome to Igniting the Shift Within.
Excited to be here, and I think that's the best intro I've ever seen to a podcast. So.
Well, thank you. And, been excited to have you here. Heard you speak at least twice in the last 3 or 4 months, and you covered sleep in one of your presentations. And there's definitely a correlation with mental health and suicide. And that's one of the events that we saw you at. So can you talk a little bit about the role that sleep plays in firefighter health, and even as far as other ramifications like risk for suicide?
Yeah. So I will admit that I underappreciated the impact of sleep until I really started digging into the literature on it. I'd always said, like, it's important, but is it really that important? It is that important, 100%. And the nice thing is it's something you can control, but interrupted circadian rhythms and shift work and short sleeping, so anything under like the 6 hours, can actually increase your risk for everything from cancer and cardiovascular disease to mental health disorders to reproductive health concerns. It impacts testosterone. And really it's because the circadian rhythms control every rhythm in your body. And you go in 90-minute sleep cycles. So alternating between REM and non-REM sleep. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons that I think we see this specifically with the fire service being important is most firefighters short sleep, particularly before they come to work. So they come to work and leave with between 5.6 and 5.8 hours worth of sleep. And so when you go through what happens when you're sleeping is it takes memories, basically takes them. Matthew Walker did a great job describing it in the book, Why We Sleep. Highly recommend his podcast, any podcast he's ever done, his TED Talks, this book, Why We Sleep, is amazing. But he talks about it shifting between like a memory stick to a hard drive. Mm-hmm. And it really, that hard drive part of it, which is what you get a lot of later in the night in particular, is where you kind of file away the dreams and your memories from the day. It's where your mind's really active. But I think it's how a lot of firefighters talk about their worst calls and how it feels like they're filing them away or locking them away in different rooms in their mind. Mm-hmm. And they're there, but you're pretty much manageable. And I think with sleep in particular, I think not getting enough of that REM sleep might be why we're seeing some of the things that we're seeing. Particularly, firefighters will talk about after they retire that they struggle or they'll have nightmares or flashbacks. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of it is because that stuff is just not filed away correctly. So I think that's a piece of it. I also think that, we know with short sleep, you get amplification of the, there was one study that I think it was like a 4-hour, one night of 4 hours of sleep. And there was a 60% amplification in the amygdala. So that feeling of like, I want to punch someone in the face with a chair that like I'm just going to snap. I think some of that has to do with the lack of sleep. So it's just so interrelated to everything else. There's not a mental health disorder that does not have either a symptom that's related to sleep or a manifestation that is, look, if you go without sleep, like it will look psychotic eventually.
Yeah, and so you referenced some of these health risks, and there was a study that I think you cited that was done at Harvard, indicated that firefighters who screen positive for sleep disorder, they're significantly more likely to experience serious health issues and incidents, and that included 200% increased risk of motor vehicle crashes, 241% more likely to report having cardiovascular disease, 191% more likely to report diabetes, staggering 381% increased likelihood of reporting anxiety, and then there's an impact on reproductive health as well.
Yeah. And so that's what I've started when I'm out talking. I'm like, all right, your peer teams need to be screening people for sleep disorders. They need to be having that conversation. Your peer fitness trainers need to be having that conversation. Because 37.2, I think from Dr. Barger's study out of Harvard, 37.2% of firefighters on a paper pencil screen positive for sleep disorder. And like 80% of them don't have a diagnosis. So particularly when you think of like a 4-fold increase in anxiety and depression, like that's huge. When we look at cancer, firefighting on average about 9% higher risk. So a 4-fold increase, like that's, just on orders of magnitude bigger. So I think we got to talk about it.
What's really impressive in a negative way is that firefighters, like other first responders, are out there making critical decisions on, critical incidents and having to do that, on deprived sleep, but also increases their risk for these other physical and mental challenges, right? And isn't there going to be a cost to a department down the road if this continues?
So I think we're already seeing the cost. Like, I think if you look at, we know that a lot of firefighters struggle. So, firefighting's perfect storm for a cardiovascular event for someone with underlying cardiovascular disease. A vast majority of the fire service has underlying cardiovascular disease. So I think we're already paying the cost. But I also think if you look at things like, motor vehicle accidents or medical mistakes, truck, how many times is are we tracking? That's one of the challenges is so far we haven't been tracking how long someone's on duty before, if a medical error occurs or a car or a truck accident or an accident with a fire truck occurs, that type of information. But if you go, 17 to 19 hours with no sleep is about a 0.05 blood alcohol content in terms of cognitive functioning. If you're at 24 hours, your cognitive functioning is equivalent to being a 0.10 blood alcohol content. So if you were to test that, you would be basically the cognitive functioning of someone who is legally intoxicated and can't drive a car. Yet we put those people on a fire truck. And I say 17 to 19 hours, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a lot. But that's a lot. No, that's like 6 hours. That's going on 6 hours of sleep. And when I'm out talking to people and I ask how many people sleep about 6 hours or less a night, usually about half the room raises their hand. Right. So I think I do think there's some liability to it. And I think it's going to take one lawsuit for someone to say, hey, why are we letting these people be way underslept before everyone has to look at it?
Right. Yeah. From that perspective, so let's say we're operating, we've just done a long shift, we've been up all night running calls, we're coming home, and so our sleep's been interrupted and we're running on a couple of hours of sleep. Is there any way to reset that sleep cycle? Say you've got 48 or 72 hours to recover. Any way to kind of fix that?
Well, yes and no. So you can't. It's never too late, right? It's never too late to prioritize your sleep. But I do think we really have to talk to firefighters about doing that. What are they doing both on duty, but more importantly, what are they doing off duty? We know about I think the last study we had 47% of the fire service had a second job. If you're at a busy station and you're up all night, you've got to be willing to prioritize your sleep and your downtime. I think there's the coolest study, or the coolest new kind of area of study. I'm sorry, I get so excited about this. There's some data I saw the other day. So sleep consistency, independent of total sleep time. So the likelihood you'll be asleep the same time today as you will be tomorrow is linked to morbidity and mortality. So if you can prioritize, if you are busy at night, prioritize a nap in the morning, right? Make sure that you have it planned, because as long as you can be consistent with your sleep. So some of those things are important. I think tactical napping is a thing, right? Mm-hmm. So, and if you're going to nap, you're going to be up at night, prioritizing a short nap in the afternoon. You don't want to sleep cycles last about 90 minutes. You don't want to wake up in the middle of a sleep cycle, because that's when you feel that really like groggy, crappy. So either keep it to like a 20, 30-minute nap. The best thing is to do a cup of coffee before, effectively use caffeine, nap, and then, you're ready to go for the rest of the day. So I think definitely prioritizing sleep, making sure that you have, the more consistent you can be, the better. So plan ahead. And if you're going to be up, you're busy, make sure that you're getting the proper rest the day after. And then there's a lot of things just around sleep hygiene. You also don't want to sleep all day and then be up all night on a time that you have off. So you want to try to be as consistent as possible with your sleep.
Right. And I mean, in a firehouse, you could have a choice between sitting in a recliner while the TV is on and people are coming in and out of the room and taking a nap, versus maybe going up to the bunk room and getting in a darker, quieter environment. Is there going to be a quality difference? What part of what you want to do is what's called classically conditioning your body. Like, have you heard of the Pavlov's dogs, that he basically conditioned dogs to salivate to a sound? I mean, you can condition people to anything. And what you want to do is condition your mind to view, especially if you're struggling with sleep at all, to view the places you sleep. So whether it's the firehouse in a bed there or at home, you want that mindset, your mind, when you see that bed, to be like, okay, this is where I relax. At home, obviously, and probably not at the fire station. At home, it's going to be sleep and sex. Fire station, probably just sleep is best case scenario there. But you want to really have your mind conditioned. You want that to be the perfect environment for sleep. But you also want it to be where, when you see that, when you get in that your mind just goes, oh, this is where we sleep, because that'll really help. So, so a lot of the things around like minimizing screen time, not watching TV when you're in bed, not being on your phone when you're in bed, really using that bed for just sleep. And at home sleep and sex. But and so when you're in that space, it's easier for you to fall asleep. And then also, cold, dark, your body temperature, I think it drops your core body temperature drops 2 degrees, I want to say, between 1 and 3, I'll say, just to be safe, because I'm not 100% sure on that. But while you sleep, so you want it to be a cool space, because that's going to help you sleep, and so all those kind of tips and tricks are going to be good. Great. And what are your thoughts about this? So let's say a firehouse, it may be acceptable to take that nap in the recliner. Of course, you're out there, you're in the day room, you're in the thick of it. Someone who goes up to the bunk room might be seen as, they're just not, conforming to the, the culture of the department or the shift. What do you say to, let's say, a company officer who's supervising these people, and you want them to kind of give them the best tools to recover? What would your approach be?
I think it comes to an education piece and an awareness raising about the importance of sleep. And I do think, I think it's a bit of a tough hill we've got ahead of us. But I think the more we can educate people on the importance of sleep, and because I think, in the fire service, in general in society, like, we wear it as a badge of honor. I used to say it before I read Matthew Walker's book, like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. There's actually research that says you will die sooner if you don't sleep enough. So, like, you will sleep when you're dead, and you will die way faster than if you prioritize your sleep. And I think it has been this badge of honor of like, oh, I can go on 2 or 3 hours. Well, you can, but are you working? Are you optimizing your health? Are you optimizing, your cognitive functioning? Are you decreasing fatigue? Probably not. Not if you're not getting the sleep that you need. So I think there really has to be we have to start talking about it in this holistic approach about like, if we are serious about wanting resilient firefighters who are ready to do the job, who are fit to do the job, who are, I mean, so this is how important sleep is. There's a study that if you have the option to either get up early and work out or get your full night's sleep, overall, the better benefit, and I'm not saying don't work out, you have to find another time for that, but the overall benefit is to get the extra hour of sleep, which is huge, right? Like in the past, I've always thought, no, I got to get up, I got to work out because that's what I need. Not if you're shortchanging your sleep. So it really, it's that important.
So let's get into this other topic, which is we're looking at a lot of different departments with different shift schedules, anything from, working days and nights, 24/48, 24/72, 48/96. In your conversations, your research, have you found that any of these are any better for sleep quality than another? Like, where are we at with that?
It's like the big question, right? And we don't have great data on it. I love and hate that question. I hate it because we don't have a specific answer and more research is needed, which I always say for job security, which is true in this case because we have a survey getting ready to go out about it. So I'll say we don't have the answer right now. We have the pieces to the answer. Pieces to the answer being the more consistent your schedule can be, the better. But also you have to take into account, and anyone deciding on what they want to do for it with a shift schedule, you got to take into account your busiest piece of apparatus at your busiest firehouse at your busiest time of year, and think, do you want that person at the end of their shift, whatever that shift is, to be running a code on grandma? And that really is what it comes down to, because you have to plan for that. Because every department, right, they have like their busy firehouse and then they have their retirement station. And so we've got to make sure that we're not making decisions at the organizational level for the retirement station because the people at the busiest house have to live with it. So I think there's pros and cons to every different variation. And every time I think we have a comprehensive list of the available shift schedules, someone throws me some curveball that I'm like, we're doing what? You're working 20 minutes and then off for 40, but not quite that bad. But it does, like that's kind of what you have to plan for. I think that I do, people have pushed back and some of the early research on sleep in the fire service really got thwarted because it was we're going to go after the 24-hour shift. And here's the problem. Someone's going to have to be up in the middle of the night. Like most of the shift work so the World Health Organization classified firefighting as a group 1 carcinogen based on the literature. They classified shift work in and of itself as a probable carcinogen. And part of their classification of firefighting as a group 1 carcinogen was based on the shift work. The literature on shift work has primarily been based on people who are in the healthcare profession, so nurses and doctors. They're not working 24-hour shifts for the most part, and now, especially with residents, they're limiting that. But being up in the middle of the night is not good for you if it's a 24-hour shift or a 48-hour shift or a 12-hour shift. Someone's going to have to be up in the middle of the night. So I don't know that a 10 and 14 is the answer. I think in really busy, with a really busy apparatus, it can be, but I don't know that it is for everyone. Even the 8-hour shifts. Someone said, oh, what if they just worked rotating 8-hour shifts? Someone's still up in the middle of the night. And it's really bad for your body to go from I've talked to people who are 3 days on, 3 days day, 3 days night. Also horrible because there's no consistency for your body. When do you sleep? When do you not? So, it's best to roll shifts forward if you are doing that rather than backwards, but someone's got to be, so there's not a great answer. We do have, a study going on. And one of the things that we're going to do is a national survey. We're just waiting for approval. So it maybe by the time this airs, we will have the link out where we're asking around all different questions about sleep. And one of the things is we're looking at different shift schedules. So we ask, what is your shift schedule? Also, how much overtime do you work on average? Those types of things. And then we'll be able to, if we get a big enough sample with that, make some comparisons. So I'm excited for that. But, stay tuned, I think is the answer, is the short answer.
Yeah. And based on what and this doesn't have to be, we're not going to hold your feet to the fire, but in a perfect world, what if somebody was working a 24-hour shift, say fairly busy, how many 24-hour blocks would you love to see them have to recover and come back to work the next shift?
So I'm really liking the 24/72.
Mhm.
We don't have data on it. Well, we have a little bit of data, and a couple of groups are working on it. We're all trying to kind of coordinate, so we're collecting the same measures. I like the 24/72 because I think it gives you some time to recover in between. I know it has to take, departments have had to be creative about how they've done that, and funding that. But I like that. I like it because it's a consistent schedule. What I don't like is if you're just going to do a lot of overtime and smash it to 72 hours, I think, and that's where I think it goes to, like, if we're going to prioritize sleep, if we're going to make decisions based on prioritizing sleep, we truly have to prioritize sleep and understand the importance that it has. But yeah, so I like the 24/72. I think I always hold out that if as new data comes out, I might say something different tomorrow, but as of this moment, that's
right. And that's assuming no side job, right? Like just purely.
Right. Assuming no side job and assuming that we're not going to just bunch. I don't love anything where you're bunching a bunch of days together just to get and I know it happens. I just don't, I hope it doesn't happen. I know some places where it happens very consistently. And I think it can be a problem. There was one study out of the Mayday project that Don Abbott did out of Phoenix, and he found that the vast majority, like over 60% of Maydays on a 4896 occur in that last 12 hours. Yeah. And that's the one that I'm like, ooh, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. So from the firefighter's perspective, when they're dealing with leadership, whether it's a company officer or a chief officer, what are your thoughts about how they can advocate for themselves better about sleep, and whether that's napping or, rotating, getting some time off the apparatus, whatever it looks like? How would they approach talking to their peers and their supervisors?
I think you got to lean heavily on the data. I think that, and more research is coming out every day. Joel Billings is working on an update on sleep in the fire service. So about 2006, IAFC worked with Carrie Kuehl, did a report, a big kind of state of the science on sleep. Carrie's working with Joel, and he has an awesome stakeholder panel together. I think we're meeting again in July, so it's coming along well. To update that with here's the latest stuff that we have. So I think that's going to be a good piece. I really do think it's got to be data driven, partly because I love data and I'm a nerd, but also I think it's really compelling data in this area. And I think, someone's going to be up in the middle of the night, someone's going to have to work shift, but what can we do when we can do it is kind of the question. Right. And another thing, and I think I've mentioned this to you before, but one of the other pieces of the study we're doing is, and I might be jumping ahead, I apologize, but is looking at changing shift start times. Mm-hmm. So can you push that back? Why do we change at 7? Some departments, I heard of a department that's switching to 6 a.m. and it just made my heart break, because if you're commuting in for a 6 a.m. shift change, and most places there's an informal agreement that you'll get there before shift change anyway. We're shortchanging people on one of the key health parameters that they need to be looking at. So I think but I also think when you're approaching a department, there has to be discussion about, we are serious about this and we're going to prioritize in the ways that are convenient and that are not convenient. So we have to talk about what are we doing off duty? Are you making sure that you've got that recovery on the days in between?
Sure. Yeah. Do you hear anecdotally, younger firefighters or people that want to become firefighters are shopping departments based on their schedules?
So they are, and this is also fascinating because I'm hearing different things. So when I talk to departments, for instance, I get a lot of questions about 4896. When I talk to departments, they say about 80% of their firefighters say that they want that shift. And whether that generalizes or if it's just departments that are, that's an empirical question too. So we'll have some data on that soon. But the other thing I'm hearing is that 20% that doesn't want it might be kind of a consistent group. The young firefighters coming in and people who are just getting into the job don't necessarily want to be gone for 48 hours at a time, whether it's because they have pets or they have, family at home. Young parents overall of what I'm hearing anecdotally, and what I heard even from some conversations with IFF, was that they're hearing young firefighters going, I don't want to be gone for 48 hours from my newborn. And then also I'm hearing that people later on, closer to retirement, are like, this is 48 at a time is too much. Now, there have been some really cool things. This is another innovation that I just love. Mary Camellia out of Mesa was one department I know that's done it, where they actually looked at staffing and they looked at what was their call volume like, and could they, to take some of the pressure off of the people who run all day and all night, take some of the pressure off during the day. Could they staff some positions on a 40-hour work week, adjusting it to what they needed, for where call volume was the highest, and put those people in. And when she started it, everyone was like, no one's going to want those shifts. It's going to go to the young people who have kids, but they're shit out of luck. And so can I cuss on a podcast?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
We encourage it.
Oh, good. I have a foul mouth. I've been told, well, by my 5-year-old and by other people, but so what she did was they set that up, and initially it was, kind of people low on the seniority list, but then she started getting a lot of requests from young families. And now she's getting a lot of requests from people who are close to retirement that are like, I'm done working 24-hour shifts. So that's another thing, is like, how can we get creative about this?
Mm-hmm.
How do we make sure that we provide something that is, useful for anyone in the fire service, and who wants these shifts, who doesn't want these shifts, why do they want these shifts? How can we be creative about solving some of the problems that we have out there? It's an exciting time. And also another one that I love, West Metro out in Colorado, Mike Binney has been working with them. Coolest guy and like super humble. So I love to call him out every chance I get. But he, as part of his master's degree for Yale, he started putting biomonitoring devices, Whoop bands, on firefighters, and they track on a dashboard. And so they can see where are their people getting really fatigued.
Mm-hmm.
They know call volume, but not all calls are the same either, right? If you're out and back on a truck, it's very different than if you're on the box and you're out for 3 hours and can't. So they're actually starting to monitor people at the individual level to help them make decisions on how to, you don't want people who are super fatigued driving $1 million fire trucks.
Yeah.
Those things are expensive.
Your point is interesting too, because calls are different, and you may come back from a call and able to fall asleep fairly easily because it was routine and, it didn't take you out of your zone. But there's other ones where, we get more stressed out, and maybe we're not able to come down from that cortisol and adrenaline. And that's going to affect us being able to A, go to sleep, and B, the quality of the sleep. Is that correct?
Right. Well, and even outside of that, like, how often are people saying, I'm going to stay up till, 11 o'clock because we usually get busy, or you wake up for a 3 or 4 a.m. call, then you just stay up when you get back, like all those things. And, the hard part about this area for research is, in the past, we've done it and we did it. The team I work with did it, where we started analyzing data and we're looking at differences in different department shifts. And we would just say oh, this department does 4896. This department does a modified Berkeley. And we would make decisions that way. But it's so variable within a department. And then even within a firehouse, it comes down to questions like, and these are all modifiable, right? Does everyone in the city get called out for every call? Does everyone get woken up? That shouldn't be happening.
Right.
If we can get as few people woken up at a time as necessary to get the job done, that's our ideal. Yeah. So it's even around pieces like that, or if you're does everyone in the firehouse get called out? If it's, is everyone woken up every time the ambulance goes out? The more we can minimize disruption to sleep, the better off we are.
Sure. Yeah. And when you're bunking, with a bunch of guys and everybody's on different apparatus, then that doesn't work. But if you're able to separate everybody into a separate space that could have a separate tones or whatever, that could make a difference. Sure.
There's some cool new station design things where, different rooms and blackout curtains, and everyone has a fan. And there's some really cool stuff out there.
This is the point we're going to say what are the 3 tactical takeaways you'd like to share about sleep that will be actionable items that people can put into use?
Perfect. So first one, I would say do prioritize your sleep. On duty, off duty, like learn about the impact, get yourself motivated, and then prioritize your sleep. The second one, I would say do what you can when you can. I think it feels so overwhelming sometimes that it's almost like, screw it, like, fuck this, I'm not going to fix it. Do what you can when you can. Like, it does make a difference. And my third one in 3 of the people listening to this is probably going to screen positive for sleep disorder. Screen yourself, do a paper pencil screen, talk to your doctor about it, and get it treated if you have it.
Okay. And the screening, is there the test that you recommend people take?
There are a couple. I don't have the names off the top of my head, but if you just Google it, we're getting ready to do, and it'll be on our Responder Strong website. It's just responderstrong.org. In the next probably 2 months, we're going to put it on electronically, but you can just Google screening for sleep disorder. And it's what your standard, like what your primary care doc would use. So sleep disorders, in particular, sleep apnea is really high in fire service, but we also see some insomnia, some shift work disorder, and restless leg. So.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Jahnke, where can people find you out there? Website, social media, any projects you have going on you want to share about?
So we will be sending some surveys out we will be sending a survey out on sleep. So keep an eye out for that. We'll put it out through our channels, see if we can talk some folks into disseminating it for us. We still have, I think, 2 spots open for our study looking at changing shift start times. So if anyone has a department that is considering that and would like to study it pre-post, there's some survey stuff, there's some biomonitoring stuff. But I am so excited because we now have social media up and running. I am shit at social media, but I've started working. So we have Science to the Station, and it's just the website is science2station.org. But we're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, Blue Vine. I don't even know what it is. I haven't even signed up for it. But yes, look for Science to the Station. And I've got someone on this now who's doing amazing things. But you can also sign up. I do a regular newsletter where, like, when a cool study comes out or we're recruiting, and that's on Science to the Station too. And you can just sign up for that. And then you get all the nerd alerts. And we've got, it's a fun, like, someone said, you guys are making science fun. And I'm like, science has always been fun. Like, I don't, who hasn't thought science was a blast? Like, yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you're able to combine it with emergency services and find ways to improve the quality of life and work for all of us who are out there doing it. So we appreciate you for that.
No, but I have the best job in the world. I get to sleep at night and hang out with fire service all day.
Well, thanks for sharing this time with us. I know it's going to be insightful for people, and it's such an important topic. So it's just wonderful to speak with you and have you share your wisdom and all your expertise.
Thanks for covering it. It's a good topic.
Absolutely. So remember to check out our website, podpage.com, Igniting, and make sure to like and follow Firefighter Nation on YouTube, Facebook, and Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and go to firefighternation.com, their website. Till the next time, stay safe, stay connected, keep igniting the shift within.
Remove carcinogens and get your gear compliant clean with Unimac laundry equipment. Find it at alliancelaundry.com/fire.
There are 2 things firefighters dislike: the way things are, and change.
Sometimes traditional ways clash with the need for change.
That's where we come in.
Slicing through the noise with insights that matter.
Welcome to Igniting the Shift Within.
Your launch pad to revolutionize the way you think and work and lead.